Law enforcement agencies across Texas are struggling to recruit and retain officers. The problem, officials say, is pay and less people entering the field. As KLTV7's Michael Richardson tells us, state lawmakers are now looking to strengthen law enforcement and help them out when it comes to recruiting and retaining officers.
Chad Jordan is a constable in Hood County. Testifying in front of state lawmakers Tuesday, he said in counties eligible for the Rural Law Enforcement Grant Program under Senate Bill 22, over a fifth of them lacked an agency-owned vehicle or ballistic vest. Two-thirds carry their personally owned firearm.
Constables are hurting for funding in Texas.
State lawmakers are looking at ways to strengthen county law enforcement, including ways to recruit and retain officers. In Gregg County, Chief Deputy Craig Harrington says their biggest obstacles are funding related. The county has 22 openings, including for jailers and deputies. In the last few months, Harrington says 3 deputies have left for other agencies.
A lot of that comes down to pay, and the other portion is the job. It's the jail. There are plenty of people that want to get into law enforcement that just flat out do not want to work in the jail.
Robert Leonard is executive director of the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas.
We're not getting enough people interested in being in law enforcement anymore. So the way to recruit people is to pay them higher salaries. This is a compounding problem.
Michael Richardson, KLTV7 News.
Now, Angelina County Sheriff Tom Selman says his office has a few vacancies, but says they are still well above the state-mandated threshold.